Wow, this film was intense. Last week, I saw Civil War, A24's latest film and their first step into making more profitable, higher budget films. And it seems to be working for them. Now, granted, the budget for this film was $50 million, but that is still the highest budget ever for an A24 film. I think it really makes sense for them to be making these more blockbuster type films so that they can use the profits from those films to fund more art house films. And that way we kind of get the best of both worlds from A24. A24 is proving themselves to be the most ambitious film company out there because now they are showing that they can compete in the big leagues with the other massive studios in Hollywood. They've already proven themselves to be the best in the indie film realm. So, how well can they do in the blockbuster realm? Well, if Civil War is any sign of what's to come, then we are in for some amazing and powerful filmmaking. For those who don't know, Civil War, directed by Alex Garland, is a film about a dystopian future in which there is a civil war happening in America. The country is divided into multiple factions in this film: the Loyalist states, who are loyal to the federal government, the Western forces of Texas and California, the Florida Alliance, and the New People's Army. The film doesn't really follow either side of the war, though, but rather a group of war journalists who are trying to reach Washington, D.C. to interview the president. I love this film, and I think everyone should see it. This was one of the most intense films I have seen in a long time. I was on the edge of my seat for most of it, and there's one scene in particular that was absolutely overflowing with tension. If you've seen the film, you know which scene I'm talking about. It's the one with Jesse Plemons that you see in the trailer.
There's some kind of misunderstanding here.
What? Well, you're American.
Okay?
Okay. What kind of American are you? You don't know?
Jesse Plemons is so freaking good in that scene, and he's only in the movie for that one scene. It's essentially a cameo, and yet his presence is what stuck with me the most after leaving the theater. That one scene alone is worth the price of admission. I'm serious. I thought any one of those characters could have died in that scene. Like, I didn't think anyone was safe, except for maybe like one character. It was honestly horrifying. It shows you how war can bring out the worst in humanity. All of the performances were great in this film, especially the ones coming from the four main actors. Kirsten Dunst plays Lee, a seasoned war photographer who's seen so much horrible shit that she's not shocked by violence anymore. Wagner Moura plays Joel, a war journalist who lives for being in the action. He actually offers most of the moments of levity in the film. Kaylee Spaney plays Jessie, a young, aspiring war photographer who idolizes Lee. She's the audience character in the film. And lastly, Stephen McKinley Henderson plays Sammy, an elderly journalist who's on the verge of retirement. He's usually the voice of reason in the film. Each of these characters go through an arc of their own, especially the first three that I mentioned. Those three go through a big change in the film. This is very much a character-driven story. The war itself is just a backdrop. Another thing that stood out to me in this film was the sound design, especially with the battle scenes. The gunshots are really loud. At one point, there's a quiet scene in the film, and then it hard cuts to a bunch of gunfire, and it made me jump in my seat. It was honestly kind of embarrassing. This isn't your typical Hollywood gunfire. This is what actual gunfire sounds like. Think of how the gunfire sounds in the movie Heat. This movie's like that. In the climactic battle of the film, they also have tanks and helicopters and explosives. It's all deafening, and it's a great choice because it really sells the film. This film is trying to realistically depict what a US Civil War would look and sound like today, and it's honestly unnerving. And this is why I think everyone should see Civil War. It's definitely not a film for everybody, but it's important enough that I think everyone should give it a try. There's a line said by Lee in the film, and it's actually in the trailer, that really drives home Alex Garland's intention with this film.
Every time I survived a war zone, I thought I was sending a warning home. Don't do this. But here we are.
Just like how Lee says her war photos that she took overseas were supposed to be a warning to the American people, this film itself is a warning to the American people. It's a cautionary tale about what happens when a polarized nation reaches a breaking point. And at a time when there's so much polarization in America, we need this film now more than ever. You might be wondering if this film leans one way or the other politically. It doesn't. And having Texas and California aligned together in this war was clearly a conscious effort to have this film stay politically neutral. And I think journalists were the perfect point of view for this film to follow, because it's their job to present events without any bias, and that's what this film does. At the end of the day, politics don't matter in a situation like this. What matters most are the lives that are affected. We don't even get to see what started this civil war. We're just thrown right into it in the beginning of the film. And I think that was a good choice, because the politics are not the focus of this movie. This film shows us that a US civil war today would be chaos and horrifying. Not even regular citizens are safe in this film, and unfortunately, I think that's how it would be in real life. We've seen how war affects other countries, and we have been fortunate enough in America to not experience that ourselves. I mean, the last war we had here was the Civil War back in the 1800s. So let's hope America sees this film as a warning, because I don't want to have to live through this shit. If you haven't seen Civil War, please consider going out to the theater to see it. It seems like it's doing well at the box office, which is great. This is an original film with a big budget, which is something we rarely get nowadays. So if we want to see more movies like this, we have to vote with our wallets. If you have seen Civil War, I'd like for you to tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And trust me, I read all my comments. This film will probably make my top 10 list at the end of the year. I don't know, I loved it that much. I'm so excited to see A24 make more of these big movies, because if they're all going to be this good, then I am here for it. So those are my thoughts on Civil War. Thank you so much for watching, and if you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing. It is free after all. It really supports the channel. I want to see this channel grow. Also consider giving this video a like if you liked it, that is, just to help me out with the algorithm a bit. If you haven't seen my last video where I talk about some cool movie directors, you can check that out right here. Or you can check out another one of my videos. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.